Greetings, everyone. It's me, the Jamaican Tory, back with you again with another discussion on the constitutional reform process as the government is attempting to move Jamaica away from a constitutional monarchy to a republic. But before we get into the discussion on that, I just like to take a moment to acknowledge the grand occasion that was the coronation of His Majesty King Charles III. And it was truly a very spectacular occasion. And I don't even know what part I like best, whether it was a procession or whether or not it was a whole anointing scene or the actual part where the crown touched the head or everything about it. Let's just say there are not enough words to describe it. One person I heard describe, well, actually several persons I heard describe saying that it was something out of a fairy tale. I, however, take issue with that description, and here's the reason why. One of the criticisms that Republicans have is that monarchies came out of fairy tales. I would like to throw cold water on that argument and point out that monarchy didn't come from fairy tales. The fairy tales were inspired by monarchy. Monarchy was here first, and then the fairy tales came out of that. And of course, persons always use that as one of the criticisms of monarchy, the quote-unquote fantasy element. But you know something? One thing that I've come to realize is that while monarchy is the language of fantasy, the language of dystopian societies is republics. Don't believe me? Check out any major dystopian franchise in pop culture, whether it be Handmaid's Tale, or Hunger Games, or 1984, or any other major dystopian franchise in the genre is concerned, you will tend to find that they are always set in republics. Tyrannical republics, mind you, but republics nonetheless. Whereas fantasy, on the other hand, tends to be monarchical in nature. And we have Game of Thrones, Chronicles of Narnia, Lord of the Rings, etc. So if somebody was to ask me if I prefer to live in a fantasy or prefer to live in a dystopia, who wants to live in a dystopia? It's a very frightening prospect. So if fairy tale it is, so be it. But anyway, that's just my little side note. Back to serious matters. So last video I discussed the topic, their president, not ours. I would like to continue that discussion by pointing out a few more things that were left out of the last video. And one of the things that I should have made note of was the whole issue of cost. And we know cost right now is a very big issue. Well, it always is, but especially now. And one of the criticisms that Republicans had was that the cost of the coronation was XYZ. Now, I'm not certain that I'm going to be sympathetic to that point of view. And here's the reason why. The coronation has not been seen in 70 years. So to make it look as though there is a constant cost associated with coronations, that's a very disingenuous line of reasoning. Compare that with the United States, where they have a presidential inauguration every 4 years. And those ceremonies are not cheap. They are very expensive. And while it is true that the coronation can be a bit costly, yes, how often are they held compared to an inauguration which is held as soon as one is over, you have to start preparing for the next one. So I don't buy that argument. And in addition to that, one thing that I like in many of the parliamentary systems, especially in UK's parliamentary system, is that whenever you have a general election and a new prime minister is to be sworn in, there is no grand inauguration, nothing costly on the matter. The prime minister simply goes to Buckingham Palace, takes his oath, and then announces his agenda in a little press conference. There's no cost like there would be in an inauguration. So I don't want persons to talk about, oh, the coronation costs too much. Go talk to Joe Biden, go talk to Donald Trump, go talk to all the American presidents. Every 4 years they have one. Even when a president is re-elected, he still has a lavish inauguration ceremony, even though he just had one 4 years ago. The same man taking the same oath. Yet they have a lavish ceremony. And nobody complains about the cost. So no, I'm not going to be very sympathetic to that line of reasoning because it's a very disingenuous line of reasoning. As far as Jamaica is concerned, with cost, because I'm zeroing home now, we have to remember that the taxpayers of Jamaica does not pay 1 red cent to the King's upkeep. I know the Republicans are trying to make it look as though Jamaican taxpayers' money goes into the King's coffer. For anybody who has that point of view out there, stop it. It is not true. Do not lie to the people. Do not deceive the people. I don't know who this message is for, but I know the viewpoint is out there. So, when it comes to costs, the only costs that we incur are those that are associated with King's House and the Governor General. And some might say even that is too much. Here's my problem with that disingenuous argument. And it's disingenuous in some circles, not in all. However, there are some circles in which it is disingenuous, and here's the reason why. When I point out that under the parliamentary republic model that the government is espousing, the costs associated with the Governor General will not be reduced. They will simply be rebranded as costs associated with the President. The same persons complaining about the cost of King's House are now saying that they would rather that cost go to the new President House, which by the way is the same as King's House, it just has a new non-royal name. And yet they're saying that they would much rather the cost go to that. And that to me is a disingenuous argument because it shows that you really and truly didn't really care about the cost anyway. You were just trying to push forward a political agenda and using cost as a scapegoat. So there is no logic to the argument whatsoever that a president will cost less than a governor general. As a matter of fact, it's highly likely to cost more, given that the ceremony that would be required for president. When I say ceremony, I mean the ceremony of upkeep, given the change in status, will be at a greater cost. So I don't buy that argument. There is, however, another school of thought out there which talks about merging office of the head of state and the prime minister. So they want a presidential system of government. I stated before, and I will say it again, the government is not listening to those voices. And when I say the government, I mean the JLPNP. I will not stop saying. They are not listening to those voices because that is not their intention. And to be honest, I am not so certain that I'm in favor of a presidential body anyway. Because as I stated before, the statistics show that parliamentary democracies overall are more democratic and are more accountable to the people as opposed to a presidential system. So there is actually merit in having a head of state that is separate from the prime minister. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be a monarchist in the first place. So the whole idea of having a presidential system is not one that the government is looking at this time. And in my opinion, it really shouldn't, because that system tends to devolve into chaos, into disorder. One only needs to look at the government shutdowns that have taken place in the United States over the last decades or so, when you have disagreement between the president and the Congress, to know that that is the last thing any Jamaican should wish for. And quite frankly, those who support a presidential republic should think very carefully before they go down that line, because I'm telling you, that's a rabbit hole you do not want to go down. So yes, a parliamentary system is better based on the statistics. However, the idea that moving to a republic will enhance the parliamentary system is one that I have to really question. And going back to the switch from King's House to President's House again, another argument that was put forward is that at least when the cost is associated with a President's House, at least now we will be, paying for what is our own. So the question isn't the Governor General already our own? I'm pretty sure that every Governor General since December of 1962 has been a Jamaican citizen. So it's not as if we are paying anything for the monarchy as far as the royal family is concerned, which means that we are one of only 14 countries in the world that doesn't have to pay a dime for a head of state. And to me, that is an advantage that we should hold on to, because not many countries have that privilege. We have that privilege. And for the government to say that, they are now moving to a different kind of a system, then the question must be asked as to what is it that they are up to. And they will tell you that what they want is a neutral head of state that is above politics. And a neutral head of state above politics is a good idea, but what better neutral head of state could there be than the king? Certainly not one of them. And don't be fooled. Any president that they choose will be from the ranks of the JLPNP. Even if they should keep the incumbent GG on as president, it will not be for very long. It will only be a transitional period until they can get in one member of either party in the office. And we know this to be a fact because that has been the trend in parliamentary democracies. Even some that are supposedly more stable. And I give an example in Germany. For example, the current president is a fellow by the name of Frank-Walter Steinmeier. And the reason I know about Steinmeier is not because he's a president, no, because I really don't take into account figure his presidents, but I know of Steinmeier from his time as foreign minister in the Merkel government. He was Merkel's second in command. So when Chancellor Scholz wanted a new president for Germany, he simply nominated one of his party's underlings. We see this again in Trinidad and Tobago, as I explained to you in the last video, where Prime Minister Rowley nominated a member of his party. The opposition party did not want an office. The Prime Minister said, you know what, I don't care, and the PM, this is my choice, therefore you're going to accept it and like it. So there is very little room for the suggestion that the head of state will be neutral. They will be neutral in theory only, but in practice it's going to be a career politician. Don't be fooled. That has been the standard in parliamentary republics. Check them. A lot of them have extensive political careers as member of one party or the other. So the idea, therefore, that the president of such a system will be politically neutral, that idea must be thrown out, because that idea is not true. Not in practice anyway. Might be in theory, but theory is all that they're giving us. But when we look at the practical implications of it, then we see that, what we are being sold. Let's just put it this way. We are being sold a 6 for 9. That's as blunt as I can put it. And because I know that we are being sold a 6 for 9, I am urging persons to please educate yourself on what the government is up to, and turn out at the polls and tell this government, we do not want your republic.